Good evening, citizens of Portsmouth and my colleagues on council. I want to once again thank you all for your patience in this process. I will now call the meeting to order. I would ask everyone to please stand for a moment of silence. And as you stand, I would ask that you remember those that we lost on September 11th, 2001. And that will follow the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. You may be seated. I will now say we have the minutes of a call meeting August 8th, 2023, and a regular meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, my fault. I'm a little bit ahead of the game. Let me slow down. Thank you. I would please ask my colleagues to note your attendance electronically.
7 members of City Council are present.
Thank you all, and thank you, Madam Clerk. We do have the minutes of a call meeting August 8th, 2023, and a regular meeting August 8th, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move adoption.
Second.
I would ask my colleagues to please vote electronically.
The minutes are adopted 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are now moving into the presentation portion of our agenda. We have 2 presentations this evening. The first is a proclamation for the Daffodil Project Day by our members from the Jewish Museum and Cultural Center in Portsmouth. If you would come forward, please. And the second one, we will recognize one of our students here in the city of Portsmouth, Armia Flythe, for winning an essay award. If you would please join me over in this area, please, ladies and gentlemen. Could all face the audience, please? Thank you. Come on, move back. I'm not going to bite you. I promise. Yes, please. Come on here. Yes. Nice to see you all. Wonderful. Would you like to pass those to the Sergeant at Arms, and he could give everyone one to explain the project?
Can I give him those? We have these little pins.
You're welcome to give those to him as well, ma'am, and he'll return them back. I had the pleasure of participating in this project, and it was very much an honor and a privilege for me to be present. And so today, we are here to present the members of the Jewish Museum and Cultural Center this proclamation. Whereas the Daffodil Project aspires to build a worldwide living Holocaust memorial by planting 1.5 million daffodils in memory children who perished in the Holocaust and in support of the children who continue to suffer in humanitarian crises and genocides around the world. And whereas the Worldwide Daffodil Project began in 2014 in Atlanta, Georgia, and symbolizes the strength and resilience of the human spirit and makes us face head-on the importance of the obligation we each have to uphold justice, and whereas at this point, 861,000 daffodil bulbs have been planted in 471 sites within 14 countries. And whereas in 2022, the Jewish Museum and Cultural Center in Portsmouth planted 3,800 bulbs on site, which bloomed in 2023, and they were beautiful. And whereas hate crimes and crimes against humanity continue to plague our society and world, we hope that the daffodils serve as a beacon of hope and a constant reminder to stand up in the face of injustice and hatred. Now, therefore, I, Shannon E. Glover, Mayor of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, do hereby proclaim Sunday, October 22nd, 2023, as Daffodil Project Day in Portsmouth. And I encourage all members of our community to join this event of poignant hope and future, in witness whereof, and on behalf of the Portsmouth City Council, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Portsmouth to be affixed this 22nd day of October, 2023. Thank you all for the project.
Thank you. Thank you
You had
very
anything
much.
you wanted to say real quick? You had anything you wanted to say? Thank the community.
What a nice opportunity. I didn't know I was going to have the opportunity to speak about this, but I am here with my fellow volunteers and the staff person, Barbara Rawson from the Jewish Museum and Culture Center. You heard much about the Daffodil Project. We urge each and every one of you to come. We're looking to plant bulbs again, both at JMCC as well as throughout the city, in all kinds of churches and business places, even private homes. But if you purchase the bulbs through JMCC, they will be counted toward this 1.5 million. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you so much for tonight.
And thank you all for attending. Please grab your items as you go back to your seats. Now I would ask Miss Armia Flythe. Armia, where are you? Come on up, Armia. You weren't shy when you won that $250. Was it $250? I remember that.
And Mayor, as she comes forward, we also ask Police Chief Jenkins to join her.
Chief Jenkins. If you would stand by Chief Jenkins and face the crowd, and if you would read your comments. Stand your
Mayor, if you would have her go to the podium.
Can
that
you
way
go
she
to the
can put her
podium,
papers
please?
down.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Armia Flight, and I am being recognized on writing an essay about how do you think the youth view police in the community. I researched what is considered community policing, and here's what I found. Community policing is defined as a policy and a strategy aimed at achieving more effective and efficient crime control, reduce fear of crime, improve quality of life, improve police services, and police legitimacy through a proactive reliance on community resources that seeks to change crime-causing conditions. I feel the relationship between the Portsmouth police and youth could be better in our neighborhoods and schools. I currently live in Charlestown condominiums, and I don't see many police coming to my neighborhood unless they have been called. I attended Waters Middle School for the first time throughout the 2022 to 2023 school year, and I have yet to learn or know the school police officer's name. They mainly sit at the front door reading or talking with other adults, not engaging the youth. I was unhappy to learn that we could not use our lockers due to the violent activities inside of the school. Statistics show Portsmouth has a population of 97,840 residents. Being a victim of crime in Portsmouth is 1 in 133. It is reported that Portsmouth, Virginia has one of the highest murder rates in the U.S., ranked at number 18. I believe if there was more police visibility and more youth-centered programs in the community, it would help to reduce delinquency, victimization, and juvenile crimes. The presence of community officers in the school is very important. However, it would help if the officers would build relationships with us students and not make us feel like the only time they engage with us is when we are in trouble. I would like to see a junior police academy for each city, starting with Portsmouth, as a pilot program. The junior police academy would provide resources, police officers, and youth a need to build a bond of trust and friendship. Academy participants will learn about the hows and whys of police work, such as crime scene investigations, functions of specialized units such as narcotics, dive, traffic safety, traffic stops, and youth services. I would like to see a youth advisory board that would include youth from the community on a panel board with police and city officials that will allow our input and feedback on youth-related issues in the community. I will work with community leaders to help foster a relationship with our youth and get them more involved with community activities. I would like to see programs that change youth when they are in trouble or suspended from school to have community service opportunities to help teach and guide them to make the right decisions. I, Armia Flife, with the help of community police and city leaders, would like to implement a program called Ports 101. P standing for Portsmouth, O standing for outreach, R for resources, T for teens, and S for safety. This program would teach youth and police officers the importance of working together to help build and shape the future of our youth to become law enforcement officers within their community.
Thank you, Armia. Thank you very much.
So I'll be quick. So, you know, a lot of you could listen to her comments and kind of, you know, feel a little bit some kind of way about it, like we're missing the mark. And in a lot of ways we are. But some of the things that she talked about, they're things that we already have in place. We have a Police Explorers program that does exactly what you talked about. The bad part about it is, how does our message continue to keep getting missed? These programs, these resources that we have, not only within this city, but within this police department, that we put out time and time again, how does it continue to keep getting missed? We have a cadet program that when individuals graduate from high school between the ages of 18 to 21 before they go to the police academy, that we will hire them and begin to train them how to be police officers well before they're able to go to the academy. But the stuff that she brought out, these are all things that we should be talking about. And I'm going to start that youth advisory board. You're going to be the first one that's going to be on it. I promise you. All right? Thank you.
Got to give you the lemonade.
She did an excellent job.
Good job.
Yep.
Thank you all again. Thank you, Armia, for your participation. We are now moving to our speaker statement. And Madam Clerk, would you please read our speaker statement?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And we do have a public hearing, and that public hearing, item 23-278. Madam Clerk, would you please read the public hearing we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. Public hearing with respect to the proposed adoption by the City Council of a resolution to request the General Assembly to amend the present city charter. The purpose of the proposed amendments is to conform certain provisions of the charter to the Virginia Code, including 1, conforming the deadline for filing of petitions for candidacy for mayor or city council, acceptances of such candidacy, and the names and addresses of campaign treasurers to the deadline provided in section 24.2-507 of the Virginia Code, and 2, correcting an obsolete citation in the charter to the Virginia Code chapter that has been repealed, and 3, conforming the time frame for City Council to make an appointment to fill a vacancy on council to the timeframe provided in Section 24.2-228 of the Virginia Code.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing item which we will be voting on the city manager section of the agenda. However, because it is a public hearing, anyone who has signed up, certainly we do have a couple of speakers, but if you did not sign up, because it is a public hearing, after we call on our registered speakers, you will have an opportunity to come speak on this item. Our first speaker is Ms. Joanne Clark. And ma'am, if you would come forward, state your name and address, you will have 5 minutes.
She's not here, ma'am.
That's true.
Mayor, it looks like that speaker is not here, but if we could at this point, I'm going to introduce to you all the Assistant City Attorney who did this research and put this information together. Her name is Janita Costin, to give an overview of what these changes are, just so that you know what you are speaking on for the public hearing. Ms. Costin, if you could approach the podium, please.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. And Attorney Costin, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam City Attorney, Ms. Graham-Williams, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, Madam City Clerk, Deputy Clerk, and congregation. As you know, this is a public hearing. This is something that the Office of the General Registrar approached our office with regarding charter amendments to make the city charter conform to state law. So in this, currently Section 3.02 of the city charter provides that the deadline for the filing of petitions for candidacy for mayor or city council and the acceptance of candidacy is the time fixed for the closing of the polls on the second Tuesday in June of the year of the election. The General Registrar reports that this language has caused confusion for two reasons. First, there's not always an election on the second Tuesday. And the second is, and therefore it's not always a fixed time for closing as well of the polls. And then the second is that the deadline for the candidacy filings under state law is different pursuant to Section 24.2-507 of the Virginia Code, which provides that that deadline is the third Tuesday in June at 7:00 p.m. So in order to eliminate confusion over something that's quite important, very important, such as candidacy filing deadlines, it's proposed to amend the charter so as to conform to the state law regarding the filing deadline of 7 p.m. and on the third Tuesday in June. So with that, another change is that a reference from Chapter 9 of Title 24.2 of the Code of Virginia to amend that to reflect Chapter 9.3 of the provisions, since they are now amended according to the state law. So in other words, Chapter 9 was repealed and Chapter 9.3 replaced that as far as the state law. So the ask is so that we would amend the charter to reflect those changes in the state code. And then the last was the change of the time frame for city council to make an appointment to fill a council vacancy from 60 days to 45 days. The charter currently provides for the 60-day deadline, but Section 2.2-228 of the Virginia Code provides for 45 days. So we're just requesting to amend the charter to match that state code to avoid any future confusion. So with that, that is what the public hearing is on, and at the conclusion, you all will vote whether or not to adopt the resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Costin.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for her?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Attorney Costin. Our next speaker is Mr. Mark Godoldig-Yatrovsky. Sir, if you would come forward, state your name and address, you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and other neighbors. As a matter of policy, I'm opposed to amending the charter of the City of Portsmouth by resolution of council based on the results of a public hearing rather than on the basis of a referendum. The state code and the city charter both allow for either a public hearing or a referendum. When you are dealing with the organic document of the city, of any city in the Commonwealth, the charter, I believe that it's important for the citizenry to be fully informed and to be full participants in changing its language. That is not possible in this setting. I would warrant that there are very few people in the city who are aware that this public hearing is taking place tonight. We do have public hearings for other purposes. They are for issues that are more immediate in terms of the consciousness of the citizenry, but these tend to be sort of abstract. If it were on the ballot as a referendum item, there would be more conversation about it. There would be a greater opportunity for people to become aware before the voting took place in the November general election. And the voice of the people in terms of the actual action by the General Assembly subsequent to that referendum and the resolution from council would have more weight, I believe. There have been recent occasions during which council has sent resolutions up and the General Assembly has not taken action that was desired. But when you have the people of the city of Portsmouth weighing in favor of a charter amendment, it changes the balance, I believe. Okay, so that's my disagreement in principle. In terms of the actual content of the resolution, I don't have any particular heartburn over what is being proposed. I don't know if that's a relief to anybody or not, but I thought I should put that on the record. I do think that the confusion cited, and I can see where when you have two dates that are a week apart that fall in mid-June, yeah, you do have potential for confusion, but it has been well established by precedent that the filing deadline for candidacy for city council and for mayor in this city is the second Tuesday in June. So by precedent, if nothing else, I think that is a given. But if you want to push it back a week, I'm not going to throw a fit. Also, I approve of shortening the time period for filling a vacancy that occurs on the council. I'm not sure why it was ever specified as 60 days. 45 is preferable. 30 would be better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to remind the citizens that the charter amendments that the General Assembly did not pass had nothing to do with whether it was a referendum or came before council. Those charter amendments were rejected along political lines, and so it didn't matter whether it was a referendum or before council.
Thank you, sir. Once again, this is a public hearing on item 23-278. Anyone who wishes to come forward and speak on this item, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes. Seeing none, this public hearing item is closed. and we will take the vote on this public hearing item under the portion of our agenda of city manager's report. We do have a need for another public hearing, item 23-279, UP-23-15. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the public hearing item that we're considering at this time?
Yes, sir. Downtown, resolution granting the request of Time on the River LLC for a use permit to operate an entertainment establishment on approximately .619 acre parcel located at 1 High Street, Suite 4, in the downtown D1 T6 Urban Core Zoning Subdistrict. The future land use map of the Bill 1 Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property for mixed use downtown. The property is owned by 1 High Street LLC. Planning Commission recommends approval. The actual resolution that you will be considering is a resolution granting a use permit, UP 2315, to Time on the River LLC to operate an entertainment establishment in Suite 4 at 1 High Street. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And obviously, the applicants are present.
Correct.
Gentlemen, if you would state your names and addresses, you will have 10 minutes to present.
Yes,
You don't
sir.
you don't need to take the whole 10 minutes if you don't need it. You just have 10 minutes.
Of course.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Well, actually, good evening, Portsmouth City Council, as well as city government officials. My name is Gabby McClay. I am a representative for Time on the River LLC. It is a restaurant here at 1 High Street in Portsmouth, Suite 4 to be exact. The restaurant is a Caribbean and Creole-based dish restaurant. We come to you this evening to ask for approval so that we may get an entertainment license. Because in the city government bylaws, it states that in order to have a live band, a small live band, or if we wanted to host karaoke night for the patrons of the city of Portsmouth who would choose to come and dine at our restaurant during happy hour, if we want to offer them karaoke, we have to have permission through city government via the entertainment license or permit. So that is why we come to you guys this evening asking that we would be able to be granted the entertainment license so that we can offer in the summer and spring months on the patio that you see a small live band as well as a cellist to be able, so that our patrons can actually enjoy the scenery of the water that the restaurant overlooks, as well as just be able to dine and enjoy some light music. And for the karaoke, we're thinking the hours would be pretty much after work, 5:30 to maybe 8:30 at latest, maybe a Wednesday or a Thursday evening, just for people to come have a drink, have a light hors d'oeuvre, or have a light appetizer, or maybe even an entree if they choose, as well as be able to just basically wind down. That is basically the closing for myself, representing Time on the River. If there are any questions, I am fully able and capable of answering.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from my colleagues on council for the representatives? Seeing none, sirs, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. You're not required to have registered to speak at this public hearing. If you do come forward and speak on this item, you will have 5 minutes, but we ask that you state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Donna Lee Biggs, and I live in the Woodbine Farm neighborhood. You know where I live. I wrote y'all an email, and I'm going to read it because I didn't prepare, because I went to the Virginia Institute for Public Policy in Henrico today to learn how y'all do your work, since I don't know about it. Who put UP 23-15 on the agenda without any pictures of where this entertainment will be? Nothing was put on the agenda explaining the plan of action. Nothing was put on the agenda to report how much revenue would be coming from the business venture. C, this is just one example of poor planning and not getting the opinions of the people who will be hearing all the loud noises all night long. C, the people weren't consulted. Have this entertainment center in Churchland where the city removed our movie theater and bar. Churchland doesn't have an entertainment venue. The city also removed the dance hall near the RV place. Favoritism at its finest. Yes, sir. It ain't about the people. It's about the money. But just to add, the fellow came up and explained everything. So now I had to see tonight what the plan was. It wasn't given to the people ahead of time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, if you would come forward, state your name, address. You will have 5 minutes.
Cliff Page Jr., 465 Primrose Street. As a charter member of the D1 committee, I proposed the rules that became the law. And subsequent to my leaving that committee, actually during that time, we divided that committee, which was the most powerful committee the city's ever had, between the D1 and the D2. Subsequent to that, the city council, at the moving of the planning department probably, created T1 through 7. Now, the reason for this, behind the scenes, and you had to be there to kind of figure out what was going on, is that various parties throughout the history of my 45 years in this city have wanted to run the show. Not you guys, but the ones who are in staff positions, planner, engineer, inspectors, and other parties trying to get in on things. And they did not want things happening with architectural review boards, design review boards, et cetera. And they have to put up with the planners, so on. But they divided these committees up. And this was a public committee. And when I left there, the day I left, I asked the council to remove the planner and engineer.
Excuse me, sir. This particular...
I know what it is. I'm getting to it.
Okay. You need to
Planner
get
and
to it.
engineer, the Redevelopment Housing Authority Director, and the Economic Development Director. Those people were running the show, but when they got thrown, and the city council removed them, and the city manager was removed within a couple of months, I broke up the whole cabal, and I removed myself from the committee because I told council I would not be a part of corruption. This is how ingrained this situation was. But what happened was they created these T1, 2, 7 committees, or zoning within the D1, which had no control of the public. So that's where we end up. And this is what is some of the problems here that has been spoken to tonight. This D1 committee didn't have anything to do but with design, but a lot of the things here are actually about design. The space that's being used outside, how much of it's private, how much of it's public, is this being fenced in? The D1 committee dealt with those kinds of issues. So what I'm telling you is this T1 through 7 is allowing people and staff to make decisions, which I agree should be publicly looked at by professionals. Now, I have no disagreement with anything that I've seen here tonight. I think it's a good plan. But I'm telling you, the sickness is in the system, these T1 through T7s, and dividing the D1 and D2, and getting rid of form-based review. This was all largely, I won't go into names here, but it was officials in the city who wanted to control things. And when I got them thrown off of that committee, they turned around and did other things to do these things behind the public's back. So this is why we have a problem. You don't have a good space for the people to speak and voice it, or professionals to look at it and oversight it like a planning commission.
Excuse me, sir, did you call a point of order?
Point of information. I'm trying to see how this is relevant to the public.
Well, he is speaking on the matter in terms of the designation, so We'll allow it. Sir, you have a few more minutes.
Yes,
to
thank
wrap it
you.
up.
That's my point. If this was not T1 through 7, it went to the Planning Commission, but it didn't go before the Design Review Committee. That would have had some oversight that is a public oversight to a certain degree, like a planning. That's an important aspect of this. And then when it came to you, it would have been approved by 2 public bodies, and they would have really looked at the details of this. But I think, to me, it looks like a good thing, but these other committees would have gone into the details much more than what we're seeing tonight. And I hope it's a success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor.
Just want to say, Mr. Mayor, I wish Time on the River well. I think it's an excellent project, and I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any addition? We didn't close the meeting first. We have to close the public meeting. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come to speak on this public hearing item at this time? Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. Now, to my colleagues, we are in need of a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the item? Please vote electronically.
This item is adopted 7-0.
Thank you, ma'am. We're now moving to City Manager's Report, item 23-280. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering at this time?
Yes, sir. An ordinance confirming the FY 2024 classification and pay plan for employees of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And we do have a registered speaker for this item. It is Mr. Mark Godaldig-Yatrovsky. And Mr. Yatrovsky, if you would come forward, state your name and address. Sir, you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, Honorable Council, and other neighbors. So, in reviewing the pay and compensation plan, there's something that my eye fell upon that has long been a question mark in my mind, going back to when I worked in the private sector and supervised people. I do not understand the benefit of having a pay scale that has a cap. When somebody reaches a certain number of years in grade, there's a maximum amount for that particular pay level. And to me, that really doesn't seem productive from a compensation standpoint. I understand that there is an exception for cost of living increases. So if everybody in the city is getting a 3% increase, even though you have been capped in your range, you will receive that. That at a minimum seems reasonable. But if you've been in a job for 40 years and you have reached what is considered the maximum for the pay grade that you're in, if you're doing a good job, why should you not be entitled to receive additional compensation? Why should the maximum exist? I believe it shouldn't. The other thing I want to say about this plan, and it's not the city manager's fault, this is the responsibility of council, there is no provision for collective bargaining for city employees. As I've stated at this podium before, there should be. You have the authority from the General Assembly. I would like you to move forward in that direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. My colleagues on council, we're in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Is there an additional discussion on this item? Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
To the previous speaker's question or statement, my question is, when will this council deliberate the request for collective bargaining?
Thank you. So that will come back before council sometime in October to bring forth some new information, since it has been active in other localities for over a year now. We have new data to support the information that's out there. So it will be council's decision to provide me with direction once that information has been provided on next steps for that.
Is there a timetable established by the Commonwealth?
Yes, we have been served with a document the city attorney has, and we have a certain time limit to respond. So bringing that forth to council in October gives us an opportunity to have a discussion on it in a work session or two before council has to make a final determination on the result.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, I would ask my colleagues to vote electronically.
This item is adopted 7-0.
Our next item is item 23-281. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting state opioid response funds in the amount of $294,852 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and appropriating said amount in the FY 2024 Behavioral Healthcare Service Fund for opioid misuse prevention, treatment, and recovery services.
Thank you, ma'am. We are in need of a motion and a second.
Move adoption.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, would you please vote electronically?
This item is adopted 7-0.
Thank you, ma'am. We've now come to item 23-282. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting STEP VA funding in the amount of $290,558 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and appropriating said amount in the FY 2024 Behavioral Healthcare Service Fund budget for the purpose of providing public mental health services.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Please vote electronically.
This item is adopted 7-0.
Item 23-283. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting settlement funds in the amount of $82,778.38 from the National Opioids Settlement Fund Trust and appropriating said amount in the FY 2024 Behavioral Healthcare Service Fund for use by BHS for approved abatement purposes as defined by the Virginia Opioid Fund and Settlement Allocation MOU.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there any additional comment on this item? Seeing none, please vote electronically.
This item is adopted 7-0.
Next item, 23-284. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. A resolution to approve the FY 2024, FY 2025 Community Service Performance Contract for the Department of Behavioral Healthcare Services.
Thank you, ma'am. We are in need of a motion and a second.
Move
For
for approval.
adoption.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, please vote electronically.
This item is adopted 7-0.
Item 23-285. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution we're considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing the conveyance of a utility easement encumbering approximately 1,292 square feet of 1227 Holland Road, Lake Kilby, to Virginia Natural Gas in furtherance of the SAVE program to upgrade natural gas line systems in the Commonwealth.
Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second. Sorry, excuse me, before we go to the motion and the second, Councilman Tillage, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to express that I will be abstaining from this vote due to an abundance of caution due to an employee relationship with this program.
Very well, sir. We are still in need of an motion.
Move for adoption.
Second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, please vote electronically.
This item is adopted 6-0 with one abstention.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next item, item 23-286. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. A resolution requesting the General Assembly of Virginia to amend the charter of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia by amending Section 3.02 regarding nomination of candidates for City Council and Mayor, and Section 3.04 regarding City Council vacancies.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, please vote electronically.
This item is adopted 7-0.
Thank you, ma'am. And that concludes our items under City Manager's report. Our next item is new business, item 23-287. Councilman Moody, are there any boards and commissions tonight?
There aren't any appointments to announce tonight, Mayor, but we do have a number of vacancies on some of our boards and commissions. So if you're interested in being part of the solution and having some input on the direction of the city, I encourage you to go to our city's website, and there you'll find under boards and commissions explanation of what each of the boards and commissions, the kind of business they conduct. So if it's of your interest, you can apply right online. They also, under the explanation, they have the times that those boards and commissions meet. So we do need applicants. So if it's something you've been wanting to get involved in your city, I encourage you to do so. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Moody. Councilman Barnes, sir, you have the floor. Oh, apologize, sir. We are now moving to item 23-288, item submitted by council members. Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
I'll yield to Mr. Barnes since he was.
Councilman Barnes, sir, you have the floor.
I just had one thing. I go past Charles Pete Field often, and the residents in the city of Portsmouth have turned that into a dumping ground. Is it any way that we can go over there and get that trash? Because they've literally, and I can show you pictures, they've literally put beds and everything, and I think that's a disservice to our children because they still go over there and practice. It takes away parking spaces. It's really disgusting, just to be honest with you. So can we go over there and clean it? And I don't know what we can do. Is it possible that at least can we put something to prevent them from going in that parking lot? So maybe a gate or something, because it's horrible. Okay. All right.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I'm not sure if this is for the city attorney or the city manager, but the last meeting I raised the issue about the historical designation of the former Mount Herman Park, the Bernard Griffin Park. Are we moving in that direction of getting that designated as a historical place.
We're valleying back and forth on whose role that was. I will tell you, Councilman, that was not something that the city attorney picked up as a responsibility, but I will pick that up now and look into it and get back to you by the next meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
If that's the consensus of council.
Oh, I see. I guess we need to see.
So just so we're clear, the ask from Dr. Whitaker is to task the city attorney's office with reviewing the process for obtaining a historical designation for Bernard Griffin Park?
Well, of course you have to look at the process,
Sure.
but to move forward, if that process permits, to move forward with that designation as a historical location.
I think it's appropriate to bring back the appropriate information of the process and what that takes, and then we can have a consensus, because we really don't know as a council. I've looked at, because I was asked about the question from a citizen, so I looked under the Department of Historical Resources, and there is a process. I don't know if that involves our city leadership, to what degree that does, or is it initiated? I couldn't determine if it was initiated by the citizen or the organization, perhaps. So I would ask that we at least get the direction of who would initiate it, and then once we're clear on that, we can move forward. Is that fair to
I
you?
have no problems with that, long as we're moving in the direction of that, that's fine. And also, there has been an issue raised about the sprinkler, getting the sprinkler installed, and council received the invoice that citizens sent from Bay Irrigation that was significantly less. I think it was something like $7,400. And the report back we received, it was for $73,000. So can we get an update on where we are on getting that sprinkler system installed, and what is the price that we're looking at there? The other issue is the scheduling of Dr. Cassandra Newby Alexander to give us the historical context report on Penner's Point.
Yes, that's set for the next council meeting.
Okay.
Yep, September the 26th.
Is that during the regular meeting or the work?
No, it will be a work
The work
session.
session?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. And then update on the disparity study.
We did receive the disparity study this weekend, so the draft copy has gone to legal to review, and we're meeting with MGT on Monday virtually to go over our comments to provide to her. And then she will update her draft, we will submit it to council, and then she will come back with a presentation with any questions on how you all, just to provide the information
Okay.
on how to move forward.
So we're looking at October.
Because next work session is all, and then October, maybe the last work session in October, because once we give you the draft, you may have some questions, we can provide them to her, so when she comes in, we'll be prepared.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, from time to time, the city sponsors different events and different organizations throughout the city. Sometimes those causes are well-known by citizens and members of council. But I think we need guidelines, and some of the amounts vary. We recently had a sponsorship that the city made for $60,000. And I think we need guidelines. We used to have an organization in the city that would organize events, and they would raise money to offset it, the sponsorships. So I think when someone comes to the city, and those things never get to council, and I'm I'm not saying they necessarily need to. I don't think we need to become a body that is deciding we're going to sponsor this event or that event. What I'm saying is that we need to be fair and equitable and have some standards on what kind of events that we're going to sponsor, what kind of return on investment is the public money going to result in. And keep in mind that return on investment, I'm not talking necessarily all the time dollars and cents. It could be goodwill, it could be good PR for the city, but we need some guidelines. I don't think any of us can say with any certainty what those guidelines are now. We hear sometimes, and I read in the news sometimes, that the city is sponsoring this event or that event, and I'm not aware of it, and I'm certainly not aware how that decision was made. So I'm just saying, if John Q. Public comes to the city, wants to sponsor something, there should be some guidelines that we're aware of, so when we get asked for sponsorships, that we can say, here are the guidelines. And if unless, Mayor, I would ask for a consensus on that. Maybe staff can come back with some recommendations. I think it's important. You know, sometimes those amounts are small, sometimes they're large, but whatever they are, the public needs to know that the decisions are being made on an equitable and fair basis.
Well, I think that's valid. I don't really know that we need a consensus. I agree we need to understand the process. But once again, to your point, this is just my thought. You know, the manager has the level of discretion to do the business of the city and the promotion of the city. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I think as a council, ultimately, we have to let the manager and trust the manager in doing their job. I don't have a problem with the consensus for the manager to bring back the information and for us to review the standards that are set and then have a discussion. So if that's the pleasure of the body, then that's what we'll ask the manager to do.
And I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to usurp the manager's authority. I'm trying to hopefully support the manager in having some guidelines other than just arbitrarily supporting this event this year or that event next year. And I'm well aware that the manager has, I think, authority to spend up to $100,000 without council's consent. And I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying that the public needs to know when they come to the city asking for sponsorship, we need to be able to hand them something and say, here are the guidelines. And once again, I'm not asking that council needs to sit here and deliberate on who we're going to sponsor and who we're not. That can be staff, that can be the manager's, it should be the manager's responsibility, but I would be comfortable in knowing that there are guidelines when those decisions are being made. Not because, you know, I like this person, I like Bill Moody, or don't like Bill Moody, but I like John Doe. Should be some guidelines. That's all I'm saying.
Councilman, I don't disagree, so I will pose the question to the body if we would like for the manager to bring back information relative to what are the guidelines and what are the benchmarks that we look at when we're determining that. So if I could get a show of hands.
Point of information.
Go ahead, point of information. Sir, you have the floor.
I'm just trying to see that.
We can't hear. Your mic. Your mic.
Were you saying that you were trying to see what the guidelines are currently, or put some more into place, or to see if we even have any?
All the above.
Okay.
Councilman Tillage, sir, you have the floor.
This wasn't germane to this topic. Are we still on this topic?
No, that topic, I think, but Dr. Whitaker, did you want to, I mean, you have the floor, sir, so.
Well, I mean, if his comments are germane to it, I think it'll be more fitting for him to speak.
And that's fine, Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor, then you can just speak after him, sir.
Yeah, as far as the question that's being raised by Mr. Moody, I think it's a legitimate question. So for our interim city manager, are there presently any guidelines that are followed?
The only guidelines I follow is when someone comes to me, I usually, if it's a large amount, I've sent emails to council to say, this is going on, I wanted y'all to know about it, would you like me to move forward? 10 times out of 10, nobody responds. And I can provide y'all with emails just to inform you what's going on and who's asking. But to answer your question, currently there is nothing in place because I have the authority up to 100,000. So when I look at that information, it's what I consider something that would benefit the city depending on the attention it could bring. But to your question, no, there is nothing specific other than a cap on a dollar amount that I could provide or spend.
Yeah, and that's really an issue I think council needs to address because it becomes arbitrary. Just like tonight, I mean, I'm all for, I want to see Outer Barbara Daycare Center succeed. But I don't know if that was the procedure for council, because how do we determine which organizations get funding like that? To just come up and ask, I want to see them get funded.
And I agree.
But how do we determine when this next organization comes, we say yes or we say no?
Yeah.
And if we don't have any policy or guideline, then it's arbitrary. And I think that's been a practice in the city that has happened too long, that we need to seriously address and give some direction to that.
And
so that it's not, we don't have these different conclusions.
And one thing that I tried to do is put those, when they came to me, when we'll use the Outer Barbara, because I had no idea I knew they existed, but I believe most of their funding came from social services. So when she told me about it, what I try to do is anytime there is something or a question about funding a long term, not a one time, but a recurring, I try to put it before council so council can have that idea of when we start doing our budget deliberations, how do we address those? Is that something that council wants to be a part of so that we can now start addressing it in our annual budget funding? So it gives me an opportunity to know that's something we can do.
Right. Well, see, I don't think it's a matter of whether it should be in our budget. It becomes, how does it even get into the budget for consideration? For example, I know there's been certain non-profit organizations that were in the budget. Well, how did they get there? Versus other a whole lot of non-profits out here that need, so what is that? But it's not a matter that we vote on it, it's a matter that is in there and it has been a practice.
Oh, you're talking about longstanding.
Yeah, and it predates you, so it's not just your issue, and so that's why I think council really needs to address and put some type of policy in place, legal counsel, assistance definitely with that.
I just want to say this, I think it's whatever you all come to determine. There are laws on the books already about what a city can and can't do. Again, we're a Dillon Rule state. Any sponsorships or donations, there's a statute on point that should be considered. So I would ask that if you come up with a policy, that it be run through legal, because just in 2020, there was a change in that statute about donations and sponsorships.
Yeah, well, I request, Mayor, that we have some type of work session update where legal brings that information back to us in a policy form.
Based on that request, I think the manager and the attorney can get together and bring that forward.
Yeah.
So we'll expect to have that in a future work session come before us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Councilman Tillage had the floor, then you, Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. So my items, number one is related to the infamous Court Street. the project, you know, we've had some issues, and so if we can be provided another update with the status of Court Street, and what the status is as far as contractors and vendors are concerned. Actually, I just worked my first public utility project in another city. And I must say, my employer, we got done in a very good timeline, so I don't understand what's going on with Court Street. So if we can please get that information, I would greatly appreciate it, as well as the status of all the vendors and what their roles are. Because I feel like at this point, I feel like it might be advantageous of council to hopefully step into this matter, because it's going on to 3 years. The next item is regarding collective bargaining. When we are presented next month about collective bargaining, if we could have a representative from the collective bargaining and state initiatives, part of the International Association of Firefighters, come speak on this issue. I think it's good to hear both sides, not just the opposing. So if we can get, and I have his contact information here, he's based out of the DC office, just so that he can provide to us and to verify information that we're being told next month, so that we can make a educated and conscious decision as we approach November. So if we can have that added, I would appreciate it. And I'll email that information to council so that you'll have that.
Thank you, sir. And Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
I had nothing further.
Well, there are a couple things I did want to add in terms of under council, items submitted by council. I want to thank our city staff, and I want to thank our school personnel, our teachers, for participating in the gift card program. You know, it was decided by our manager and shared with council that with some of the funds that were left over, we were going to supplement our school teachers' budgets in the classroom to help them to buy for some of those items that they would normally pay for out of their own pockets. And I can tell you, when that program was instituted at the end of August, end of August, I received numerous reports from the teachers in the Portsmouth Public Schools of how grateful they were for the city supporting them in that effort. Sometimes it's the little things that matter. And when folks, you know, talk about supporting education, not only do we fund the budget that our superintendent asks for, but we also keep in mind every year what the needs of our teachers are. So I just want to let everyone know this administration and this team is working to make sure that our children and our teachers have what they need. And I want to thank you and all of you guys for getting that done. The other thing is, wanted to recognize the folks that had I think this is the 3rd annual paddle battle on the river. It's a fundraising event to raise funds for the Portsmouth museums, the Naval Shipyard Museum, and these individuals are volunteers mostly who put on this event. It was well attended, it was well run. No, I didn't win the paddle battle this year, but I participated. And the reason I participate is because it's important that we send the right message, that we support our organizations in the city of Portsmouth. Thank you, Mr. Gary Bahena and Ms. Jeannie McCoy and all the volunteers who made the paddle battle a success once again. That concludes my comments, and Mr. Moody, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Reference the gift cards. I think it would be good to get an accounting of how many are left and what the plan is to distribute those.
But sure, I will provide that.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor.
Yes, and also in regards to the gift cards, if we could find out what is the criteria under ARPA that qualified the teachers to receive those? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Moving on, report on pending items. Madam Interim City Manager, do you have any pending items?
No, sir, I don't.
We've now come to the item, the number 23-290, non-agenda speakers. If you would please read the speaker statement, Madam Clerk, We will call up the first non-agenda speaker.
City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the city council as a body rather than to any particular member of city council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our first non-agenda speaker is Jacqueline Williams. Ms. Williams, you will come forward, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Honored Mayor and the member of the City Council. My name is Jacqueline.
Ma'am, if you could just please move the microphone closer to your mouth so we can hear you. We want to hear you, okay?
My name is Jacqueline Williams. I'm currently reside in 1 Freedom Court, Portsmouth, Virginia, 23701. I am requesting release for the subper fund held by the city or Portsmouth for the tax sale or 602 Warfield Drive, Portsmouth, Virginia. I am the sole heir of former owner of William H. Anderson. Miss Anderson was a hard-working individual who took pride in maintaining his property and securing the future for his family. Upon his death, I took responsibility of upholding his legacy. It is disheartening to not only be stripped of our property, but also the suffer from over $50,000 without notification with battling sickle cell anemia. I now receive no notification that our property auction for delinquent tax payment of the city position for our support farm from the sale. After serving attempting to resolve the issue with the city council, the city treasurer office, I was given the runaround and bounce from person to person and department to department without help. So I'm here today to request the release of the super fund held by the city from the sale of 602 Warfield Drive. Thank you for your time in considering of this critical matter.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. And unfortunately, your particular matter, because it's a legal matter, it is not a matter in which the city council can affect. However, I would recommend that you talk with our city attorney, Attorney LaVonda Graham Williams, who is up here on the dais. Once the meeting is over, you could certainly set up a time to speak with her. And who is that with you, ma'am?
Yes, my name is David Perry. I'm here in support of Ms. Williams in this matter and to provide any constructual framework for her request for relief for surplus funds held by the city.
So as you're aware, that is a matter that needs to be discussed
Yes.
with the attorney.
Correct. And ultimately, she's here today because she's made several requests in writing over the last year to City Council for this relief and has not been heard. And she's provided a copy of all these letters. And she's made multiple attempts via writing.
Thank you, sir. But
Yes.
part of the reason is, unfortunately, as members of council, that does not come under our direction. So That is not something that we can affect directly. However, you're welcome to speak to our city attorney to have more clarity on that matter.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor, sir.
could the city attorney just follow up with council to let us know what the outcome of that, because it's involving an issue with land and auction and.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Ms. Yolanda Nicholson. Ms. Nicholson, if you would come forward, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. I live at 1063 Hodges Ferry Road in Portsmouth. I am not a speaker, but I just want to come before you and just let you know that you are appreciated. I deliver mail in the city of Portsmouth, and I've been delivering mail for 19 years. And I just started coming to the meetings mainly because of Angelia Williams Grave. She came to our church in Norfolk, and I started knocking on doors for her, and then I said, well, let me go to my city that I live in and participate in something that's going on with them. So you're appreciated, from the youngest to the eldest. I'm not sure who's the oldest, but you are appreciated. And one thing about when the young lady was speaking, I was trying to think of the terminology, but the community policing is definitely in Portsmouth, because I see the police officers, I see their response time. When my coworker Maggie got hit on Airline Boulevard and lost her life, and when my supervisor lost her life on Florida Avenue delivering mail, the police responded. On up to a couple of weeks ago on Magnolia in Churchland, older lady came to the front door and said she needed help. So I called 911 and I talked to the dispatcher, and they communicated with me to ask the, husband that was on the bedroom floor questions. So I do appreciate the police officers. I see the walks that they have. I see your ceremony yesterday. I look at your comments on crime in the city, how the community has to get involved. And even if I were to call my mother today, she could tell me what Louise Lucas' favorite ice cream is. My mother worked at High's Ice Cream for about 25 years. So you're appreciated. You're appreciated. And I just wanted to come and say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholson. Our next speaker, Mr. Mark Godal-Dujatrovsky. Come forward and state your name. You will have 5 minutes, sir.
Mayor, council, and other neighbors, before I get to my main points, I do want to remark on the mayor's remarks yesterday on the occasion of September 11th. It was a reminder that there hasn't been the same sense of unity in our country as there was subsequent to the disasters of September 11th in almost I don't know how many years. It's been a great many years since we all pulled together. And, Dr. King really summarized it extremely well when he said that words to the effect that it doesn't matter what ship you came over on, we're all in the same boat now. We need to remember that we are all Americans. So taking some of my own medicine, I have 3 proposed referendum items in the form of charter amendments, and they are not written out as they would need to be, but I'm giving you the conceptual view. Number 1, I would ask that we have put before the citizens of the city a return to the ward system for election of council and the mayor, that the city would be divided into 6 wards of approximately equal population, and that the mayor would be elected by the city as a whole. Council members would represent the 6 wards. 1 council member would represent each of the 6 wards. Number 2, that the powers of the mayor be expanded in the following manner. Whenever a city appointee is being hired or being considered for firing, that the mayor's vote, in addition to or as part of the normal majority, the mayor's vote would be necessary to either hire or fire. And the third item, that term limits be set for all elective offices in the city of Portsmouth. The term would be 3. So all offices except the clerk of the court that involve popular election are 4-year terms. So one person could serve 3 terms in any of those offices. That's for your consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is, I do not believe Dr. Buxton is still with us. Is Dr. Buxton, are you still here? Okay, so we'll move down the line. Our next speaker is Miss Tanya Lamb. Did I say that correctly, Miss Lamb? If you would come forward, state your name and address, you will have 5 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ooh. The lighting is different here. Thank you. Greetings, Mayor, Councilor, and all who are present. I want to thank you for this opportunity tonight, and I've chosen to wear black tonight in representation of all the murders and all the unnecessary killings that have taken place in the city of Portsmouth, Virginia. As you stated, my name is Tanya, for the record, Godwin Lamb, and I've intentionally, like I said, worn black tonight. Also for the record, I want to make it known, I actually don't reside right now in the city of Portsmouth, Virginia. I actually reside in our capital city of Richmond, Virginia. However, before you're so quick to dismiss me, I've been asked to speak on behalf of quite a few of your constituents tonight. Some are present, some are online. I've come to address the issue of gun violence in the city of Portsmouth, Virginia, and I've decided to title my message, "When Will Portsmouth, Virginia Get Tired of Burying Its Children and Loved Ones due to the premature death by the senseless killings related to the gun violence in Portsmouth?" Question mark, question mark, question mark. And let us not overlook the gang violence, because sadly, they go hand in hand. Quick history. I was born and raised here, right here in Portsmouth, Virginia. I was also educated in Portsmouth Public Schools, K through 12. Some of my dearest and closest family members and friends still reside right here in this city. Some of the most special ones to me are my mother and my grandchildren. So that has what provoked me to be here tonight. But I'm also here tonight because of the current killings that keep taking place in the city of Portsmouth, Virginia. One particular on this past week, and her aunt is present, 31-year-old Erica Atkins. For some reason, it struck a chord this time with me. You see, again, I'm aware I know her aunt, but I also know and knew many of the other victims who have been killed right here in the city of Portsmouth, Virginia. I know their aunts, their uncles, some of their mothers, and their fathers. But let us not also forget the countless 14 and 15-year-old children who have also been gunned down right here in Portsmouth within their own neighborhoods. Sadly, in most of these cases, I know they're people too. Now, did I come here tonight to bog y'all down with all these statistical data? I think the young lady that came here tonight that got her award, the young teenager, I think she was really good at that. But what I will read is just one headliner. In this past year of 2022, Portsmouth, Virginia was rated as the worst city in the entire state and with the most is considered the most dangerous city to live in. Yep, ladies and gentlemen, clutch your pearls and grab your boxer briefs. And I do mean that literally. Immediately after reading that last year, my husband and I decided to do something. My husband is also born and raised and educated in the city of Portsmouth, Virginia. We decided, we're both Christians, to head a prayer movement here, which we actually started January of this year. We've been meeting every month and has been very successful, and we've gravitated quite a few members. However, again, this last weekend, I kept saying, we're not doing enough. We're not obviously involved enough to see what's going on. So again, I'm asking the city, when will the city of Portsmouth, Virginia get tired of burying its youth and having innocent blood on the streets? It is my most humble opinion that the city of Portsmouth, Virginia is in crisis. Now you might ask me, how can I say such a thing? And I don't mind telling y'all my response would be this. It could be my master's degree from Norfolk State University in the field of clinical social work, graduate 2010, also in mental health. Or how about my bachelor's degree in sociology with the emphasis in criminal justice, graduate 2006, same institution. Or maybe it's the 13 years of my experience I've had as a crisis counselor and crisis supervisor. Oh, my time is up?
Time is up, but.
Can I make just one
yes,
question?
You can make one
I'm gonna
question.
simplify it.
Okay.
I'm trying to determine tonight, what exactly are y'all doing to deal with the gang violence and the violence in this city? Last comment, my grandson no longer lives in the city of Portsmouth anymore. He's 16 because in April of this past year at a local high school here in Portsmouth, he was approached by gang members. And because he rejected them, it got really, really hectic. My son now lives with his father in another state because he can no longer be in the company of the family he grew up with all this time, because we're not doing, in my opinion, what should be done to deal with the guns and the gang violence right here in Portsmouth, Virginia. And I appreciate y'all being patient with me and extending me the extra time.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Barnes, you have the floor.
I just wanted to say this is a concern for me, which is why I asked that we had a work session regarding the crime in the city. We didn't get to go through it today, but we're going to have a special meeting coming up. So hopefully everybody can be in attendance for that to find out, because I'm interested in learning myself. And as somebody with children in the city, young children who go to those high schools, middle schools, who had a little cousin who was shot and killed at 12. This is a big concern for me as well, which is why I asked to be on the agenda. So as soon as that information comes out, I think we should be finalizing it tomorrow. Hopefully we can put it out ASAP so everybody can be in attendance to find out, and also help with providing resources, because we need to listen to our citizens regarding this issue. Thank you.
Can I have one question?
Got it, Sim.
Would y'all consider me being on that panel? My background is social work.
Ma'am,
Oh, I'm just asking a question. Would you? Okay. I'm
your time
cool.
is up, ma'am.
I'm cool.
Thank you.
I appreciate
You
your
can-
time.
You can certainly talk to someone afterwards.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Gary Bahena.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, my Vice Mayor, all council, and everybody else present. My name is Gary Bahena. I'm president of the Friends of the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard Museum. As the mayor pointed out, the Friends put on the 3rd annual Portsmouth Paddle Battle this weekend. The paddle battle is paddleboard and kayak races. We start in the High Street Basin, race up to the Hammerhead Crane and back, 2 laps if you're in the advanced category. It's also about the community and putting on free children's events. We do free face painting. We do educational stuff, usually with the museum, Children's Museum. We do educational stuff from the Tidewater Maritime reenactors. And we have other activities for the kids, including even coloring books of the Lightship Portsmouth. We also offer music, food, and other activities throughout the day. This year's paddle battle was challenging in a number of respects. Sponsorships were down significantly, a little over 15%. This seems to be a trend this year with the economic uncertainties. Are we going to go into recession? Are we in a recession? Are we not going to go into recession? And other nonprofits have experienced the same thing. Most of our racers sign up in the last 10, 12 days prior to the event. So the weather added to further challenges as the forecast looked really, really unfriendly. In fact, we had to stop the second to the last heat of racing because the lightning was hitting around very close by in Norfolk, and we had to cancel the Challenge Cup between the Navy and the Coast Guard. That said, we expect to net about $7,500. That's down from $8,300 last year, but well up from $6,200 in the first year. We had 57 racers registered to race this year compared to the 64 last year. And 41 racers, including the mayor, hit the water this year compared with 43 last year. So there were some good things that were going on, notwithstanding the challenges. I want to point out that safety is very important. When we put the first paddle battle on, LaVorce Pace was the interim city manager and did not want us to put it on. We were in COVID. He had concerns. He had safety concerns. He finally relented, but he called me and said, "I want a promise from you. No one gets hurt on the water." We've kept that promise for 3 years, and we intend to keep it moving forward. The paddle battle is a unique partnership with the city of Portsmouth. All the net proceeds are used by the Friends to support the Shipyard Museum, and the Lightship Portsmouth. In fact, except for a very nominal overhead, every penny that the Friends spends goes to support those 2 museums. Most of the paddle battle money goes to support the oral history project, which many of you, or all of you, have probably heard me talk about. It's that unique partnership with I.C. Norcom's TV and production students, where we are doing an oral history, which will become a permanent digital interactive exhibit in the Shipyard Museum about the lives of the people who have lived in Portsmouth and worked at the shipyard. In the first 3 years, we've gone back, basically we've captured people and stories going back to the 40s. In recognition of the Friends' unique role in running the Portsmouth Paddle Battle, really solely for the benefit of the city and its museums, we've developed some great relationships within the city. We work closely with Parks and Recs on planning, and then we look back at the event and see how it can be improved. We have lots of meetings with Renee Spratley and Mark Palamarchuk. We want to say thank you to both of them. We've started discussions with, and this I hope you'll be as excited as we are, we've started discussions with Parks and Recs about a format change for Paddle Battle next year. We want to add a junior paddle battle. We want to bring kids in from other parts of the city that don't get to get out on the water. We've had people volunteer tandem kayaks. We're working on a partnership with Parks and Recs to take over that piece or work with us on that piece. And that would become the afternoon component of the paddle battle. is bringing kids from places and communities, parts of Portsmouth that don't get to get on the water, and teaching them about getting on the water. We work closely with Peter Glagola and Keith Toller to market the paddle battle, both of whom spend hours creating and implementing marketing campaigns to help attract racers and watchers. Thank you, Peter and Keith. Fire Chief Nestor Mangobet provides the fireboat and in the water and EMT on land for additional safety assist. Chief Jenkins, Stephen Jenkins, loans and rents us police for the event. The city's equipment crew are fantastic at coordinating at a very early hour of the morning, getting everything in place and where it needs to be. I've just got a couple more if I can.
Thank you, sir. You need to finish your thought, okay?
Thomas Stallings and his electrical crew for the city do a wonderful job making sure all the outlets are in operation for this event because we use a lot of them. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, crew. And so many other city employees help in different ways, and I'm sorry if I don't have time to mention each one of them. Whenever I speak to a group about the Portsmouth Paddle Battle, I tell everyone about the amazing partnership with the city, and I emphasize that we could not put this event on without the city. So my last thank you is thank you, City of Portsmouth.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Coleman Young. Is Mr. Young present? I do not see him. Yes, Mr. Coleman Young. I do not see him. So our next speaker is Mr. Cedric Cradle.
Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, City Council, Police Chief, and the cities of Portsmouth. As of today, 26 homicides in the city of Portsmouth. There's a lot of issues. Why haven't we addressed PRJ? One of my members of Unseen Tears' son got killed last October in the same vicinity that young lady Erica Atkins got killed on Friday. Why haven't we addressed PRJ? I'm going to address the citizens because, again, I just feel like I've been coming out here for 3 years saying the same thing, and it's just sad. There's nothing being done. I've seen 2 council persons in the paper today say that they're doing all you can on crime. That's not the truth. That is far from the truth. We have already identified Dale's home as a high crime area. Southside Guard is a high crime area. And you telling me they're still shooting and killing people out there? That makes no sense. We have people who are new members of council who ran off of violence. But we hear nothing. The only time we hear something is from you guys is when there's some collective violence going on in our city. It's amazing to me that even a council person in the paper said that they don't even know, is it the jobs, is it the community? You don't have a witness protection program, so you're not going to get the commitment from your citizens to come out and tell anything. It's not going to happen. We in 2023. The violence is real, people, and people are dying. And we have a predominant African-American council, and the list that I'm about to read off, 90% of those people are African-Americans. And it's not about race. But at some point, we got to say, hold on, something ain't right here. Are we addressing the real issues? We got leaders that don't even know why this stuff is happening. We blaming it on community not speaking up. That's far from the truth, and y'all know this. It's sad. So I'm speaking to the citizens because the council don't pay me any mind. You got to vote some people in here that's going to change some things around here. Because if you don't, the killings are going to continue to happen. Nobody's going to be there doing anything. We can't blame the police. They're limited in what they can do. They don't have enough police officers. Something is wrong with this picture. And we're still asking the question. It's not about the cameras because I got 3 families that have their homicides on camera right now, and their homicides are unsolved. So the cameras that we supposed to set up, they're not set up. But we're waiting. That means something ain't right here. But I'm gonna go ahead and do what I've been doing and say the names of the victims the homicide victims in the city of Portsmouth, and it's over 128 of them for you guys that don't know. And some of you guys might be perturbed about the names because I heard some of your comments off the record, but I really don't care because some of y'all time is going to be short here. That's what I'm hoping, because a young woman just got killed, and all those people out there don't nobody know. But anyway, these are the victims of gun violence in the city of Portsmouth. Charles Mobley, Corey Turd, Antonio Atkins, Emmanuel Turd, Jeffrey Baseball, Jaquan Johnson, Carlton Dodd, Tyshik Wolf, Anthony Skeeter, Raekwon Morgan, Natasia Hicks, Jamel Howard, Darion Granger, Marjorie Lee, Demond Mitchell, Lakeisha Smith, DeAndre Morrison, Joshua Sykes, Antoine Wiggins, Talik Farmer, Vernon Nova, Yasheem Kerway, James Hill, Dante Copeland, Robert Artis, Malcolm Hoskins, Javon Williams, Kamandra Howard, Daquan Epps, Omar Booker, Robert Langston, Nicholas Suggs, Richard Tucker, Timothy Shine, Brian Williams, Marquell, Curtis Walton, Kyrie Thomas, William Seffers, Carlson Baines, Antonio Bunch, Curtis Richardson, Andre Hall, Kiara, Victor Green, David Branch, Lawrence Kofor, Crystal Jacobs, Derek Parker, Demetrius White, Boober Staten, Melanie Everett, Amarion Collins, Andrea Bethea, Kareem Barshea, Rodney Anderson, Gary Fields, Jamont Mitchell, Keith Warren, Raekwon Gray, Deion Lofton Jr., Georgia Devontae Lee, Alicia Deion Mears, Ashley Merricks, Robert Parker, Dalen Spence, Terrence A. Johnson, Devin Crosby, Tyrell Jones, Ariel McLaren, Xavier Hill, Keandra Jenkins, John Plummer Jr., Bernard Clack, Mays Moon, Anthony Brown. Can I continue?
Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anthony Brown, Jaquan White, Christopher Washington, Clifton Privet, Ashante Britt, Lamont Brown, Donald Thornton, Calvin Colston, Desiree Lightfoot, Deontay Clark, Ronnie Turin, Jesse Hogg, Johnny Freeman, Jameer Barnes, Corey Harris, Mashik Burden, William Jones, Ralph Harris, Kiana Bailey, Elvis Blaze, Melvin Bynum, Samuel Jones, Naquan Madison, Shaquilla Branch, Clinton Hampton, Ramel Shroud, Javante Martin, Machias Freeman, Terrence Palmer Jr., Lee Sawyer III, Alvin Joyner, Calvin Joyner, Terry Miller, Jordan Snipes, Glenn Wallace, Tyree McPherson, Albert Henderson Jr., Alazara Selby, Elijah Johnson, Carlos Cordova, Carlos Castro Murillo, Tyler Bardille, Liam Fawkes, Jason Randall, Michael Roberts, Rocco Nixon, David Williams Jr., James Rocky III, Victor Driver, an unknown 16-year-old in Churchton, Keith Wright, Obi Holloway, and Erica Atkins. Citizens, we need more better leaders.
Our next speaker is Mr. Cliff Page. Sir, if you would state your name and address, you have 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, this is hard. I feel like I'm coming on after Pavarotti or James Brown. That was something I just heard, and I hope that you all listen to those names. That's tremendous. Now I got to say my piece. And there's a vacuum, because I got to come down from listening to that. That was hard, and I hope that you all see it that way too. As you recall, ladies and gentlemen, I came to this council on August the 9th. And everybody went on vacation, but the city was still running. And I addressed you all about orchestrated blight. I gave you the definitions of blight. I told you about how blight was being dealt with in this city between the redevelopment, economic development, city officials, and so on. And how we have, selective enforcement. Now, I addressed a number of issues. This particular, if you recall, I came to you because a building had completely burned down at 400 Hatton Street in the 1000 block in the Uptown Business District, which is a historic district, at 3 in the morning. Now, I'm not going to tell you what some of my neighbors think about that fire and how it was caused and various things. But some of the things about that I addressed to you all then, and nothing was done. So I'm here again tonight to address some of these matters. I spoke to you all about the Wall Street. Nothing was done about that. I talked to you about Wall Street. Nothing has been done about that. Wall Street is a not dedicated street on my side of Hatton Street in the 1000 block. On the other side, it is a dedicated street. It is a named street. It goes to the middle of the block. The state courts, going back to 1897, and I have written several dissertations on this matter to the city attorneys, and even had fines against me returned to me from the city treasurer because of this matter. Individuals are not responsible for alleyways, and I'm concerned about the vote you all took some weeks ago in this matter about alleyways. It is the city's responsibility to maintain all right-of-ways, and the state law does not define what these right-of-ways are, but that means curbs, gutters, streets, alleys, sidewalks, the whole bit. You do not have to improve them, but if you see something's wrong and you don't improve it, you might get by with negligence. But if you're given constructive notice and you don't do something about it, you can't hide behind sovereign immunity. There's several major court cases going back for over a century in this matter. So even though a city street is not owned by the city, if it's a public right-of-way and the people pass on it and there's transaction on it, that is a right-of-way. And the city has a responsibility. And I've seen some letters sent by the city attorney. I have in possession one of these that is absolutely incorrect, and they know better. I know because I dealt with the city attorney at that time, and they got a title search in there on this matter. So here's some of the situations that we have back there. Wall Street. I wasn't getting anything. I waited. City manager didn't do anything, and her people didn't do anything. So I got hot with the people downtown. I won't talk about the departments here. Put their nose down in it. But there were at least a dozen mattresses that somebody had dumped. People have talked about dumping in the city. This is going on. There were people giving fruit and laying it down there, bringing all sorts of vermin in. Behind my building, it's 10 inches is the height of grass. It can be any kind of stuff that can be growing. It's 5 feet tall. It caught fire, could have burned my building down. Piles of rubbish that had been there for a year or more that didn't get picked up, somebody dumps on top of that. You see one pile, somebody dumps on top of that. There's stuff there that redevelopment left that's been there for 9 years. And I have talked to various departments, nothing's been done. I went to another department, and some of this stuff got picked up on Wall Street. I'm not sure which, or maybe even the sheriff's department, and his trustees picked up some of it. But there's a car that was totally burned. It's been there now for 2 months. This is blight by neglect. This is city government not doing its job. The laws are very clear, but selective enforcement is illegal. And I hope you pay attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, Mr. Sergi O'Neill. Sir, if you would come forward, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. My name is Sergi O'Neill, reside at 1420 Elm Avenue here in this city. Would like to give a couple of thanks on behalf of a couple of organizations I work with before I go into my further comments. That's why, Mayor, thank you on behalf of the Marion Foundation for your attendance at our event with the Sheriff's Department on Sunday. Very impactful statements you made to the attendees of that. We cannot forget those attendees because at the end of the day, they're still citizens too. That's right. Regardless of what some people may feel or may not feel. Also, too, thank you on behalf of Virginia Organizing to those who have met with the group virtually regarding mental health and behavioral health care services here in this city. We greatly appreciate you for your time and attention. I am here on behalf of what's been going on lately, now more than ever. Like one of our council people like to state how much they're from Dale's home. I have 3 nephews that live in Dale's home right now. 3 of them. They have 3 other siblings, too. that come through Dale's homes sometime to visit. And it is sad to see, because I know at one point in time, PRHA used to have there was some difference in leadership over there. The level of accountability, and I'm calling them out as well because they have a hand in it too. Regardless of what some people might think, they are still part of this city, regardless of whether they live in public housing or not. And in some people's thought process is that, oh, well, we'll let them kill and do whatever, because guess what? At the end of the day, they just pay rent, they don't pay no taxes, they don't do nothing else. Well, that's not the case. Not for all of them anyway. There has to be a level of accountability, because it should not take for every time you turn around. I go through Dale's home and I can tell you how many times somebody will see me and they go running because of what kind of car I drive, because they think it's the police, because they out there doing something they don't have no business doing. But if it got to take that, then so be it. Because a lot of people come before council and say, y'all are not doing enough, but guess what? If there's a level of accountability in the community that says we're not doing enough either. Because if we know these people that are going to these neighborhoods causing chaos, causing confusion, but yet still it's whatever because it didn't happen to your family member, then y'all part of the problem too. Because I can guarantee you, and I'm not making no threats, but I am so serious. My nephews are going to go home to a safe environment every day I'm on this earth until God take me from it, one way or another. Because I'm tired of them getting off the bus. Uncle Sergio, I'm scared. I can't go home because somebody's shooting. I got to duck between the railings on my porch because somebody was shooting. That's crazy. I was born and raised in the projects. I get it. I'm out of Barbara, grown home all day long. But we had a different level of code and ethics within our own communities back when I was born. And I'm 36. I'm younger than some of y'all here. But I still remember that because it still grow with me regardless of where I live at. We didn't allow certain chaos and foolishness to take place in our communities. I don't know what happened. I don't know where the disconnect is, but we need to bring it back because we can't keep coming marching down here. Oh, council not doing no, council not doing that. We ain't doing nothing either. That we got to meet somewhere in the middle and say we are not putting up with this. The residents of PRHA need to know that if PRHA is not doing it, then somebody got to go. Because it's getting old and it's getting tired. They're getting treated like second-class citizens, allowing a bunch of foolishness and chaos to go on where they live at. But the other part of that is we have to learn this. We got to start teaching more self-sufficiency. We have to bring our people out of those neighborhoods. Trust and believe, I have done my part to make sure I say, hey, that might be your beginning, but that is not your end. Do not think PRHA public housing is all you're going to know, because it breeds a level of dependency over and over again on the system that is failing our people, and it's not going to happen. And it don't matter whether you black, white, or whatever, it's a system of disaster. That's it. So again, city, people, everybody watching, we got to stop this because we're losing too many people. Somebody that contributes time and money and walk and effort. My last part of this lady has lost 2 family members. I don't know if I could stand before y'all and say, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, because it would just take something from me. My heart goes out to her family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Ms. Sheila Joseph. Ma'am, if you would come forward, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
I would like to thank everyone without calling whoever's up in front of me. And I hope that my son makes sure everyone got some letters that I have written. If anyone received any letter, could you acknowledge that you got it, of my concerns? And also, it was some things that I wanted to speak about, what other people spoke about, the dumping. I, again, say 4 o'clock in the morning, goes out in the area where you have your dumpster on the property, and I found out just recently it's not owned by someone out of town. It's owned by someone economic development. And that's where the 2 dumpsters was put when she did the presentation. And it made the matter worse. The trash is even more dumped, and I have videos. And to speak a little more about myself, I send information about that I asked about the leaded pipes and the storm drain, the sewage, and the flooded streets. And I mentioned to you all before that I had written to the president, and he wrote me back and said that he feels that everyone deserves to have clean drinking water, to remove the leaded pipes. I also spoke about how I mentioned it to Congress Scott. And again, on these documents is the letter that came from Congress about the leaded pipe, $738 million. He said it was more than enough to take care of Portsmouth. But Virginia, it was enough for Virginia. The $1 trillion was about rebuilding America. And I mentioned in my letter about the street. Senator Lucas spent $2 million every year in Virginia to upgrade our streets, but it's none have been done. And I noticed Am Avenue and certain ones, they went 2 inches down and refurbished the street. Rebuild means to take everything up and do it all over again. When I went into Old Town and video and took pictures how they was digging up and opening the street and taking the old leaded pipes and the water line, putting in water line, I mentioned that to you all before. Then I told you was more to come in the area throughout the United States of the disasters for those that got those copies. And also it's on my website, twcmadonline.com, for anyone to be on one accord to know what I'm talking about. I have mentioned 2 different ones when I say more to come. Worldwide disaster, and that God is sparing Virginia and the 7 cities. We have been praying from here to UK. We have people in different areas that you didn't know that's a part of what we are doing. But we are praying that the city of Portsmouth listen to the people. You don't hear a lot of people. And I have a problem with people when I speak and I see, seriousness in a lot of people's eyes, and then certain people, it's a smile. But what I'm saying is very serious. I want to let you know the reason why I start back wearing my mask, I don't really need it, but I wear it for other people to feel protected when they're around me. The COVID never left. If you go into the hospital, you'll see that they start back using it because COVID is getting a lot of people again. And for an example, here in Portsmouth, people are getting sick. And I tell you all, and anybody that listen to me on YouTube or whatever, build up your immune system and also keep the masses back on. I want to wrap up one more thing.
Your time is up, ma'am.
Okay, can I say one more
Your
little
time is
thing?
up.
Okay.
Your
well,
time is up.
Thank you anyway.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I hope y'all respond to me in that information.
Our next speaker is Ms. Monica Atkins.
Greetings, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and the councilmen. This was really rough for me to get up here and speak tonight, but I found it robbery for not to come up here to express myself with the loss of my niece, Erica Atkins. And when I say my niece, this is my niece that I helped raise by my sister, so. My name is Monica Atkins, founder and executive director of Stop the Violence 757. I founded my organization 9 years ago when my son Antonio Atkins was killed in the city of Portsmouth. The year before that, I lost my cousin Aaron Turner out London Oaks under similar circumstances. And this past weekend, a third member of the Atkins family lost her life to senseless gun violence. My beautiful and kind-hearted niece, Erica Atkins. All three were shot, Aaron on a couch sleep, and my son and niece in a car. My son and niece leave behind 2 children robbed of a loving parent. And all 3 died in the city of Portsmouth, one of the most violent-prone cities in the country. I am here as a mother, a cousin, an aunt, a community leader, which I give wholeheartedly in the city of Portsmouth, which where I'm from, and I don't reside. To ask all of you, our elected officials, when enough is enough. Does this community not matters to you? Are we not worthy of your time and your investments? Are Portsmouth residents supposed to just accept that their city is a war zone? Because right now, we are under an attack. On an average, our expectancies is 20 years shorter than that in middle-class neighborhoods. Our opium-related deaths rank as one of the highest per capita in the country, and gun violence have become a daily occurrence, oftentimes killing innocent bystanders with no criminal history, including children. Is this how Portsmouth should be remembered? As our city government representatives, is this a record you are proud of? We need to see an action plan ASAP because no one is exempt. This revolving door is going to happen again. I promise you, it's going to happen again. Enough is enough. It's time for you all to put your money where your mouth is. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Excuse me, sir, are you a registered speaker?
I was asked to come up here with Monica.
But you're not listed as a registered speaker. Vice Mayor Lucas Burke, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I reserved my comments for the end because I knew that we would get a lot of conversation about the crime in Portsmouth, and we do have a presentation that will be held by our Chief of Police at a special call meeting whenever we determine that will be held. And I hope that we will broadcast that so that everyone who has come before us in the past or in the future will be here for the presentation and for us to have an open dialogue, because it's time for us to have an open, honest dialogue between our citizens and this council, because we've seen this. We hear it from time to time. You know, what is the solution? What is the plan? What is the plan of action? What does it look like? It's just black kids. If it was white kids, if we had that list that Cedric read and it was all white community, we would have a plan. We would have some action. There would be something done. But on the other hand, too, if it was happening there and in their community, they would do something. They wouldn't allow it. They would be vigilant. They would be on their blocks, making sure that this don't happen every night. So it was my comments that was in the news, that it's not just the city council that's just going to come up with a plan, because when we come up with a plan, half of the people probably won't read the plan or won't show up to listen to what the plan is going to be about. So I hope that when the chief of police has his presentation and we come together as a council, that it's going to be a special meeting, I hope it broadcasts to where there's no more seats in here, because we all need to have it. So if we all interested, I hope that we will all show up and open dialogue and get something finally done.
Councilman Barnes, sir, you have the floor.
I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but too often we talk a good game when it comes to the crime. And we have a lot of conversations, we have a lot of meetings, but nothing escalates from there. So I hear my colleague, and I'm hoping that as a full council that we can really this time put some real effort into addressing these issues. I've had a conversation with the city manager because a lot of people came up today and talked about PRHA. I totally agree with you. They are not really providing any real assistance when it comes to the crime. They ask us for money to do certain things. They ask for cameras and all that, but a lot of the times they're not doing anything really to help. And they're not really doing anything to help their environment. They don't provide resources, a lot of resources for the people that stay there. They don't provide programs. They took the they took the basketball court because kids were shooting dice on it. But that's an avenue and gives them something to do. And they said they was going to look into putting up, but that's all they ever do, and that's all we ever do is look into something. So I think we seriously need to deal with this issue. I don't want to, if we're going to have a whole bunch of conversations, I don't want to be a part of it. I want to be a part of action.
Thank you, sir. Our last speaker for the evening is Mr. Merle Rutledge. Please state your name and address, sir, and you will have 5 minutes.
My name is Merle Rutledge, and I'm never going to give y'all my address again. To all on the council, I have repeatedly, as well as many others, have called for the witness protection program, and it has been nothing but excuses. See, when somebody's been doing something wrong for quite some time, and we see the results in the city, the crime is up, people scared to go out their homes. People are scared of each other. That's why we are so quick to kill each other. See, we used to know our neighbors. Our parents used to be able to have their kids play with other kids, so they got more time to get to know each other. Our kids is killing their best friends. This is the reality, people. When people have came to y'all over and over again about problems, yes, they have lost faith in you. See, I came up from a time just like many of you. Now the children are raising the parents. That's the problem. So you wonder why they're going to defend themselves because they feel like everybody else is getting shot around them? Well, that's because they come from a time period in which the kids are raising the parents. The parents are supposed to be raising our kids, and that philosophy should not be a philosophy. This used to be what it took to grow up here in America, what it meant to survive in America, and what it meant for us to get along with each other. Our kids don't have no dispute resolution skills because they're barely going to school. Not just school, your public schools, but the school of the streets and school of learning about each other from each neighborhood and each street and each avenue. But also, let me get straight to the point because also we have a thing called bad leadership. And when we encourage the vices of our children as well as the vices of us to the point we stay silent and we don't speak no more. Because we scared to comment because it may affect the political party. I could care less about your political party, period. I could care less you Democrat, Republican, Independent, don't care. Our kids are dying. They're supposed to bury us, not us bury them. See, we have too many people talking a good game, talking about presentation, this, that, and that. I encourage kids now and parents, if your kid is in trouble, talk to them. Try to talk to the person who they got beef with. If not, move them out the state. Because it's not paid for a lot of the life insurance, and hopefully you're able to afford to bury your son or daughter. That's the reality here, people. America is in trouble, and our leadership is in crisis. And it's all involved. So I encourage you, Mr. Mayor, I encourage everybody on this council to now put that money into the witness protection program to protect our witnesses so we can actually have justice against these murderers and monsters. Every single day across America and across Virginia, the worst of the worst is getting released on streets, and people are not even notified, but the gang members know who they are ahead of time. That's the price we pay when we decide to keep people misinformed instead of giving them the reality check. I'll call on you leaders, don't care about, oh, that's not my job or anything like that. You got the money, do it. Sometimes you do things, you make the impossible possible. Don't be scared to make change happen just because other cities ain't doing it. That's inexcusable. See, a lot of y'all up here, I know y'all care. Something deep in your heart really cares. I know it does. Y'all cry even though y'all don't shed a tear right now. Stop shedding tears. Stop seeing our kids shed tears. Stop seeing our family shed tears. It's time for us to fight back. The criminals are running the night right now in every single city across Virginia, not just Portsmouth. And it's time for us all to get engaged. I walk these same streets. I've been to Dale's Homes, Swanson Homes, every single bad neighborhood out there. And all they want is us to talk to them. They want y'all to talk to them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for your
sir.
time.
Good night. Ladies and gentlemen, seeing no more business to conduct by this council, thank you all for attending. Have a good evening. Stay safe and healthy.